بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا، اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. آمين رب العالمين. اللهم اجعلنا من أهل القرآن وخاصته. آمين يا رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, we are at our 13th lesson, I think, and 12th, 14th lesson. And our today, inshallah, is going to probably be the last lesson. We're just working. I think it's probably going to be the last lesson for this term. So we will, inshallah, conclude and resume again most likely next year, inshallah. But we will get to talk about that. Inshallah, we're going to move on with Surah Yasin. We started with Surah Yasin 2-3 weeks ago, and we're looking at the 10 themes of Surah Yasin, as it's broken up in Sheikh Sharif Hassan al-Banna's book, Journey Through the Quran. And we're looking at other tafsirs, going through some of the ayat and reflections on the translations and the meanings of these verses. And today, inshallah, we're going to just do a quick recap on theme 1, which we covered briefly last week. We haven't completed theme 1 yet, so we're going to go through from the beginning again, just to cover what we spoke about last week, and then we're going to complete theme 1, inshallah. And if we have some time, we're going to have a brief look into theme number 2, which is interesting. So as we know, Surah Yasin is known as the heart of the Quran, and it's quite a powerful surah. There's many magnificent, all the surahs in the Quran. The entire Quran is magnificent, but there's something really special about Surah Yasin. It's a very good practice to memorize the surah. It's not that long, relatively speaking. It's about 7 or 8 pages, and it's quite a very good practice to recite the surah frequently, have a habit of reciting the surah, and something that's important for us to understand and realize is that the Quran is alive. We shouldn't think of the Quran as a book. It's actually alive, and it actually comes alive when we engage with it, when we recite it, when we reflect on its meanings. It comes alive, but it actually is it is alive, right? There are many narrations within our tradition that speak about the miracles that occur through the Quran. My grandfather, rahimahullah, he used to have this habit of whenever he had any problem, he would recite something from the Quran with the niyyah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala facilitates ease for the specific problem, any problem. He used to do that. And subhanallah, I haven't met him, but there's many good stories spoken about him. He was a very gentle man. Allah grant him my place in Jannah. He was a Hafid, very well-known Hafid, and of the Quran, alhamdulillah. And so that's something important, that we need to realize that this book is not just a book that's sitting on our shelves amongst other books. It's a book that is alive, and it's a book that we should establish a relationship with. There's often many ahadith that speak about that personifies the Quran. One that comes to mind is there's a hadith that says that if somebody who has had a frequent engagement and relationship with the Quran, if they pass away, I think I might have mentioned this before, but it is quite important. If they pass away, then a man will come that has a beautiful smell and very beautiful looking man, and he will get into the kafan, as they say, the of the person that is deceased, and he will stay with that person and until he gets that person into Jannah. And it will be asked, who are you? Who is this person? And the person will say, I'm the Quran. You've spent time with me in this world, and I will make sure that I see to it that you get into Jannah. I will intercede on your behalf. Quran is something really amazing. So it's important, I remind myself and all of us that we need to have a daily practice of reciting the Quran, whether it's one verse a day, whether it's one page a day, whether it's one juz a day for those who are hafiz. Allah enable us. It's very, very important that we work on establishing a strong relationship with the Quran. These classes, something very important, I might have mentioned it before, but I'll just mention it again now. These sessions and these classes that we have, These are only to facilitate your, in some way to add to, at least, to facilitate or add to your understanding of what you're reciting when you're reciting, just to add to it, right? There's many other resources out there, but to add to it. But it only comes alive when you engage with it. So it's not something that, translation and reflections and commentary, these are not Quran. These are our thoughts and our engagements and what we think the Quran means. But the Quran is far beyond that, right? So the important part is that it comes to life when we recite it, and that's something very important. So that's a reminder to myself and to everybody else that, inshallah, when if going through these lessons and you hear the explanations and the translations and everything, then take some notes and everything, and then when you set some time aside for you every day to sit a little bit and recite and reflect on what is being recited, and through that, inshallah, Allah will grant lots of goodness and blessings and barakah. Lots of blessings will come into your life, lots of openings will come through that. I mean, that's what we, that's one of the things, benefits, and also many benefits beyond that. So may Allah grant us understanding. Okay, so let's just quickly get into the main themes. Just to recap, we have spoken about this in the last two lessons, but let's just speak about it again. So Surah Yasin has got 10 themes. Again, this is just a way for us to sort of break down the surah so that we can look at it, in part. But this is the 10 themes that we have in Surah Yasin. The first one, which is what we're going to be talking about today, inshallah, is my internet is going a little bit. Okay. What's on the screen name? My PC is freezing up. Yeah, I'm not sure. I pressed the button a lot of times, so my computer is a bit slow. So the 10 themes of Surah Yasin, just getting back to it again, it should be there now, yeah. So the first part is the sending down of the Quran to the Prophet Muhammad for forewarning and giving glad tidings to those who accept the message, who follow the message, who allow their inner souls to resonate. There's something within us that actually will resonate with this Quran if we allow it to. That's something important. Islam is about a willing submission to Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us free will, and it is in order to test us to see if we are going to willingly submit to Allah. Right? That's something important. So we have this thing within us, which we're going to talk about in these verses. Let me maybe get into it. The second theme is the story of the people of the town. It's a very interesting section, which is the second section of Surah Yasin, and we're probably going to get into some of that today, inshallah. So let's get into it. Theme number 1. I'm going to recite again for the sake of connecting, for the sake of fulfilling the primary purpose, which is to connect to this Quran through reciting it and through listening to it. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Yasin. We spoke a little bit about Yasin. Some people say it's referring to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi Sayyidina Muhammad. It's huruful muqatta'at. The safest view is that none knows its true meaning except Allah. But we can mention some of the opinions that are out there.
Right? While Quran al-Hakim, we spoke a little bit about this. This is this part Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes an oath, takes an oath by the wise Quran. And we explained that one of the reasons, very unique to the Quran, one of the reasons that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes an oath, it's a very interesting thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does. He takes an oath on something, and then he mentions something else, and the object by which the oath was taken is the proof and the evidence for what is going to be mentioned afterwards. So we explained this, and make an example. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says here, Wal Quran al Hakim, I swear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking an oath by the wise Quran that indeed, certainly, there's no doubt that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is one of the messengers. So how do we understand this? One of the ways we can understand this is that the fact that the Quran came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam Muhammad is evidence that he is truly one of the messengers. Right? And this is also to fortify, because we must remember again, I mentioned this, but we must remember again that this surah was revealed in Meccan period when the primary focus was to convince the Quraysh about Tawheed, right? To call people to Tawheed. And so many of them were worshipping idols and all of these things. And so they needed the reinforcing these things, all that, even those who became Muslim, they need the reinforcing of the iman, and so these things were repeated all the time, right? Wal Quran al Hakim innaka lamin al mursalin. Certainly Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam Muhammad was you, O Prophet Muhammad, are truly one of the messengers. Ala siratim mustaqim. What else? You are upon a straight path. We know the straight path, it's mentioned in Surah Fatiha, the straight path. It's very interesting, this Siratim Mustaqim, right? I have mentioned this in the Surah Fatiha in the first few lessons of the series, but just to repeat, right? So the word Sirat alone actually means a straight path already. Just the word Sirat. Mustaqim emphasizes that it's straight, and the word Mustaqim comes from the word Istiqama, which means upright. Something that's upright, and it's very difficult to be upright. When you upright, there's also the idea within it that you need to stand firm, right? Against, you're going to, when you stand on the truth, you're going to get opposition. That is things that's going to happen. You're going to get opposition, and so you're standing upright. You're on the straight path. It's the path of truth, and it's the path that you must stand firm and bury your feet firmly within the ground. When you understand that you're on the truth, you're going to get opposition and stuff, but you need to resist, right? You need to resist. It's very important. Okay, so let's go on. Tanzil al-Aziz al-Rahim. This is a revelation from Allah al-Aziz, the Almighty, al-Rahim, the most merciful. And again, al-Rahim is one of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's more closely related or translated as, the special mercy. Scholars explain that al-Rahim is the special mercy that is reserved for the believers. That's one view, right? That's one view. لِتُنذِرَ قَوْمًا مَا أُنذِرَ آبَاؤُهُمْ فَهُمْ غَافِلُونَ. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning again, which this has been mentioned before, what is the purpose of this, of the messenger? What is the purpose of the Quran, actually? لِتُنذِرَ قَوْمًا مَا. This is a revelation from the Almighty, the most merciful. And what is its purpose? So that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam can use this Quran to warn people, to caution people, right? And the primary audience are people who haven't received the revelation for some time in that period. So this verse is again affirming that idea. This is so that you may warn, so that Rasulullah may warn a people, or may caution a people whose forefathers were not warned. Not necessarily were not warned, but more accurately, they haven't received revelation, right? They haven't received revelation. So they became, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَهُمْ غَافِلُونَ. So they became heedless. So they are heedless, right? And that's what ghafla means. Ghafla means to be heedless, to not care, to just chill, just take it easy, just go with the flow, and nothing bothers you. That's ghafla, right? State of ghafla. It's not a state that the Muslim should be in, right? Doesn't mean you must be always serious. No, there's a balance, right? We mustn't be so heedless that we forget about our duties and we just go with the flow and everything is fine. That's not the way of a Muslim, right? We have been created for a purpose, and our purpose here is to, we need to work to fulfill our purpose. This world is a world of working. Right? So we need to be working to fulfill our purpose, and that's that you might ask the question, what is our purpose? That's another thing that we can go into. Personally, we can give general answers for those things, but personally, each and every one of us must ask that question so that we have some kind of introspection, trying to understand, what our purpose is, what is the purpose that we've been created for. So we don't want to become heedless, and that was the state of the people who the Prophet ﷺ came to. Right, that was their state. لقد حق القول على أكثرهم, generally, obviously, that's what I mean. لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying now, the decree of torment has already been justified against most of them, for they will never believe. So there were people who they knew the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Muhammad. They understood that, or they knew him before revelation came, right? They knew he was trustworthy. They knew he was an honest person. They knew he was an upright person. They knew all of those things. They trusted him, so much so that even afterwards, when he developed enemies, even the enemies couldn't say that they couldn't trust him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Muhammad. They couldn't say that, right? Yet they couldn't accept the message. Some of them, right? They couldn't accept the message. They couldn't accept that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came with this message of the Quran, even though it was crystal clear. And so we mentioned this last week, and we mentioned it again. The once Allah sends revelation, once Allah sends these things, right, and makes it crystal clear to you that this is the truth, then there's an expectation that you submit to it. Once it's made crystal clear. Now, getting to the point of making crystal clear is not necessarily an easy process. Well, obviously for Allah it's easy, right? But it's not necessarily an easy process to become, and we must be careful about this also. Sometimes we might be, as some people maybe who's involved in da'wah, for example, we might be going out and telling people about Islam and those kind of things, and then we say, okay, no, we told people about Islam, and so now the onus is on them to accept. We must be careful with this kind of hastiness, because there's so many layers of, I don't know, this is a bit of a digression now, but I'll just mention a minute or two. There's so many layers of understanding. Sometimes we don't present Islam properly to people, and then we think we've given a message to them, and then we say, oh no, but we've given the message. Have we given the message properly? That's something important. We need to check every level. So the Quran was revealed over 23 years, which means that there was 23 years for people to accept and understand the message. And it came down, verse by verse, very difficult times the Prophet ﷺ went through, receiving all of these ayat upon occasion, difficult things. People drove him out of it. It was crystal clear if you were looking properly at these things, that Rasulullah ﷺ was a messenger and he was receiving revelation. And people were given chances upon chances upon chances, and that's how we need to deal with people. We need to give chance upon chance upon chance, all the time, and never give up on people. That's not our job. Is just to convey the message, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who guides, and we hope that Allah guides through us, trying to pass on some of these words. Okay, so how did I get there? After all of that, there were still people who rejected. And so these next few verses here are heavy verses, but they are in the Quran, and we need to understand. They are, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is warning, if you take that path of rejecting after you understand, it's not a good path. It's a dangerous path to go down, right? And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying over here, it's like these people have been so arrogant, and they've been so hostile to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When there were so many chances for them to accept that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, it's like a done deal, man. You've been given so many chances. And now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, like, it's almost as if the promise of punishment has been decreed already because of all the times that you rejected. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, that they will never believe. This is also consolement for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he was really, really, really concerned about the people. And he would go, he would really cry for the people and go out of his way to give this message. Yet many of them didn't believe. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala consoles him. You don't worry, Muhammad. You are doing what you can do. Guidance is in the hands of Allah at the end of the day. That's important. So these are heavy verses, but this is, mentioning that. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, it is as if we have put shackles around their necks up to their chins, so their heads are forced up. These people who've rejected all the time. Okay, you want to reject all the time. You've been given enough chances and you're still arrogant. So now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sealing your fate, sort of. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes this, and I described this last week, where it's like the scene where where there's like there's like shackles around their necks, and some other narrations explain it's almost like their hands are also tied here, and their heads are up, and they can't see. They can't see, like they can't look down, so they can't see in front of them. They can't see at the back of them, also, which comes in the next verse. And some scholars explain that this is an allusion to how things are crystal clear, but they are so, maybe even the eyes are open, but they can't see because of this thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explaining, like the heads are up and like their necks are tied and their hands are tied. There's another interesting narration that's connected to this. Some scholars say that this verse specifically, it could be, these many different things, but some scholars say that this refers to a specific incident that happened in the time of Rasulullah. Rasulullah was making salah, and there were some enemies of Rasulullah that came and wanted to bash him with a stone. This is some written in Qurtubi's, I think it's in Qurtubi's tafsir. And so they took the stone while he was in sujood and wanted to bash his head. And as they wanted to bash his head, something like three things happened. There were three people who came. Something happened, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, was like a miracle. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stopped it from happening. The guy wanted to bash his head with a stone, and as he wanted to do that, the stone shot back up and it like went here by his face. So some scholars say that this is related to that, man. And then another person came and he wanted to bash the Prophet again, and then something else happened. And then one of the things that happened also, like as this person wanted to hit the Prophet, he couldn't see the Prophet, but he could hear the Prophet. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala predicting. Allah knows best, but these are stories that also some scholars say that this refers to that. And then there's another one also where another person came and tried to bash the Prophet. These are narrations that's mentioned. So it's possible that it's connected to this. Allah knows best, but that's just something interesting that I found in the tafsir books. So it could be that that's connected to this. That's actually specifically, but it doesn't take away from the general meaning of this verse, where people are blinded and they can't see, and if you reject, basically. وَجَعَلْنَا مِنْ بَيْنِ أَيْدِيهِمْ سَدًّا وَمِنْ خَلْفِهِمْ سَدًّا فَأَغْشَيْنَاهُمْ فَهُمْ لَا يُبْصِرُونَ. Yeah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying that we have placed a barrier before them and a barrier behind them, and covered them all up so they fail to see the truth. How do we understand these things? It's like I didn't mention it here. So there's a barrier in front of them, meaning they can't see the truth right in front of them, right? And some scholars explain what is evident in front of them, they can't see. And then what's the barrier behind them? The barrier behind them is referring to all of the signs that have been left behind. Like if we go to Egypt, for example, we see the pyramids, we see Pharaoh, we see all of these things that happen in history. We read about history, we read about Qawm Lut, we read about all of these things. These things happen, the ruins are there, you can go look and you can go find, and you can go speak to historians and they can tell you about the stories. Those are the things at the back that they rejected. And so that's the veil sort of at the back that's being referred to here. So there's nothing, so the heads are up, they have barriers in front, they have a barrier in the back, and it's up on top. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَأَغْشَيْنَاهُمْ. Even the top is covered. There's no way that these people are going to see the truth. Right? So even if we are engaged in da'wah, speaking to people, we must understand that our duty is only to convey in the most beautiful way that we can. And Allah is the one at the end of the day who decides who's going to be guided. And people also, there's free will. So people also have obviously a part to play when it comes to accepting guidance. Okay. 19. What's the time now? How much time do I have? Can I go? Okay. I'm actually a bit behind here. I want to end off by maybe number 12, inshallah, which is on the screen. وَسَوَاءٌ عَلَيْهِمْ أَأَنذَرْتَهُمْ أَمْ لَمْ. Did I mention? What's the previous verse here? Just a reminder, this is Surah Yasin. For those of you who maybe came in a little bit late, this is Surah Yasin. We're looking at the first few verses of Surah Yasin and just understanding the meanings here. I was going to see, sorry. Oh yeah, okay. I've finished number 9, so I'm looking at number 10 now. It's a bit slow. Sorry. I pressed this button like a few times. My PC is like very slow. So I'm just waiting to get to لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون. Okay, I don't know what's happening here. What's on the screen? Sorry, some technical issues here. Okay, the last verse that we spoke about, I'll just speak from my mind for now. From the last verse that we spoke about, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنْ بَيْنِ أَيْدِيهِمْ سَدًّا وَمِنْ خَلْفِهِمْ سَدًّا فَأَغْشَيْنَاهُمْ فَهُمْ لَا يُبْصِرُونَ. That was the last verse. Just give me 1 second. Okay, it's coming now. لِتُنذِرَ قَوْمًا مَا أُنذِرَ آبَاؤُهُمْ فَهُمْ غَافِلُونَ. Guys can see that number 6. No? Number 7 should have come up now. لَقَدْ حَقَّ الْقَوْلُ عَلَى أَكْثَرِهِمْ فَهُمْ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. Okay. إِنَّا جَعَلْنَا فِي أَعْنَاقِهِمْ أَغْلَالًا فَهِيَ إِلَى الْأَذْقَانِ فَهُمْ مُقْمَحُونَ. We spoke about that. وَجَعَلْنَا مِنْ بَيْنِ أَيْدِيهِمْ سَدًّا وَمِنْ خَلْفِهِمْ سَدًّا فَأَغْشَيْنَاهُمْ فَهُمْ لَا يُبْصِرُونَ. And then the next verse should come. Okay. Can you guys see? وَسَوَاءٌ عَلَيْهِمْ أَأَنذَرْتَهُمْ أَمْ لَمْ تُنذِرْهُمْ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. This verse simply says that, again, just repeating from what we said earlier, that, it's the same whether you remind them or warn them or not, they will never believe. These are these people who, again, this doesn't give us license to give up on people. That must be understood. These were specific special cases for people who it was crystal clear. The Prophet ﷺ delivered the message perfectly, as clearly as possible, and people still rejected. So we don't have that license to give up on people. We don't have that level of certainty that we know we presented the message properly. So we shouldn't make that mistake, right? إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشروا بمغفرة وأجر كريم. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is now giving insight into who are the people who will actually benefit from the reminder that Rasulullah is giving. This verse translates as إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر. You can only warn those who, you can only caution those who follow the reminder. So when like you guys are sitting here now, listening carefully and attentively to what is being said and trying to understand and trying to follow. That is what we must do. Whenever we hear the Quranic verses, whenever we hear the ahadith, whenever we hear, listen to anything, we should always keep our ears open and listen, because truth is all over, right? There's truth in almost everywhere, like scattered maybe sometimes in between falsehood in different places. So we should always be open to listen to things. We don't need to take everything, but there's a narration that says that wisdom is the lost property of the believer. Wherever you find it, you take it. So we look everywhere. We don't have to close ourselves to things, but we have to be critical, especially in today's time, because there's a lot of confusion going on. It's a lot of things that's confused. Point is that once you find those things, the people who's going to benefit from this are those people who, when they hear the truth, they follow it. When they hear, they follow the reminder. And what does this mean? What this can also mean is, that, there's something that's within all of us. A ruh that's within all of us. When we hear truth, right? If we allow our ruh to resonate with it, you will feel something stir up inside of you. That's your ruh, right? That's your ruh. And we must allow that to happen. Don't conceal it. Don't block it. Don't close your ears. Some people literally used to do that in the Prophet. When they heard the Quran, they used to close their ears. They used to tell people, when you go there to Prophet reciting, close your ears. Why must you close your ears? Because they were scared and they knew the power of this Quran. Right? So allow that to take you over. Dhikr also, when you're making adhkar, allow yourself to just, resonate with what you are actually reciting. It's something very important, right? We actually feel something inside of you. It's very difficult to explain those things, but those things are from a different, the ruh that's within us is literally not from this world. That's a very interesting thing about us as human beings. We are part, from this earth, and we are part something that's beyond this world. So that's what we need to do. And also the people who will benefit from this Quran are people who are in awe of Allah. They are in awe of Allah and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does for them, right? Ar-Rahman is mentioned here, the most merciful, his name. Bil ghaib, they are in awe of Allah and they fear Allah, and they're conscious of Allah, and they just taken away by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's grandeur. When? Bil ghaib, in the unseen. And this could mean without seeing him, it's translated as without seeing him, right? But this could mean two things. It could mean that you fear Allah even though you can't see him. None of us can see Allah. And also it could mean that you fear Allah in spaces when you are alone and nobody else is around. That's the two kind of meanings that you can get from this over here. Bil ghaib. So we fear Allah in the unseen. It's easy to in public to show good and those kind of things, but what is your state when you are alone? Because Allah is there still, he's watching you, he's seeing, right? So these are the kind of people who will really benefit from this revelation. And that is what we need to do in order to make ourselves ready to actually receive this. فَبَشِّرُوا بِمَغْفِرَةٍ وَأَجْرٍ عَظِيمٍ. Give them glad tidings. So give them good news of maghfirah, forgiveness, وَأَجْرٍ كَرِيمٍ, and an honorable, noble reward, right? And Allah leaves it open again, because that is like fast. Last verse. إِنَّا نَحْنُ نُحْيِي الْمَوْتَى وَنَكْتُبُ مَا قَدَّمُوا وَآثَارَهُمْ وَكُلَّ شَيْءٍ أَحْصَيْنَاهُ فِي إِمَامٍ مُبِينٍ. It is certainly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying here, it is us who we resurrect the dead, we bring the dead to life. That's going to happen in Qiyamah. Everybody's going to die and we're going to come back, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying it is us, it is Allah who resurrects the dead, right? وَنَكْتُبُ مَا قَدَّمُوا. This is very interesting. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying over here that we write down everything that they did, that they sent forth, and everything that they left behind. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying over here that every single thing that we do is recorded. What we do in terms of the good deeds, the things that we do, here it's translated as وَنَكْتُبُ مَا قَدَّمُوا. What we send forth, what that means basically is, if you do something good, the angels, they write down the good, they send it forth, almost like it's going to go for processing. Okay, this guy made salah now. Okay, we're writing down, recording that he made salah. We send it forth, it gets processed, it come back. Okay, so that's what you send forth. And what you left behind. What is this? Every single action that we engage in this world has consequences, good consequences or bad consequences, but we cannot get away from the consequences of our actions. You can do whatever you want to do. You can't get away from the consequence. If you do good things, it's good consequences. If you do bad things, it's bad consequences. And by the way, this word athar actually means footprint, something that you leave behind. Allah protect us and Allah grant our lineage to be pure. But the thing is, if we commit sins, then, traces of that sins might go down to our lineage. Our children and our children's children might be affected by that, by some bad things that we do. Right? So that's another motivation for us to stay away from sin. Ask Allah to forgive you. Allah can wipe, Allah can take these things away. But there is consequences to everything that we do. There's consequences to everything that we do. If you look at it closely, oftentimes, alhamdulillah, I've been moving in many circles now for some time. And oftentimes when I come across somebody who's part of an organization, and then I find out, the father was maybe part of an organization, or somebody close in the family was part of an organization. Oftentimes we are honored and blessed to do certain good works. We don't realize that we are actually standing, some scholars say we are standing on the shoulders of our forefathers, of our fathers, our grandfathers. They did something good. I, for the life of me, alhamdulillah, memorized the Quran. I cannot think of anything that I've done to deserve to memorize the Quran. But something I realized recently, and I thought about it, it's maybe not me. It's maybe my grandfather who was Hafiz. And he maybe made a dua, may Allah grant that Hufad come from my lineage. It's nothing to do with me. I must be thankful to my grandfather. He did some good things and it comes down in the family. So we can think of this for us ourselves. Do good things and also make intentions. Something, I'm going to end on this, inshallah. Something very interesting I came across, like I saw it somewhere on somebody's status. They were saying that this person walks hiking or in places, and what this person does is, whenever they're walking in places, they recite loud subhanallah, alhamdulillah, and making dhikrullah. And they say they're doing this, is the reason why they're doing this is because they want the flowers to testify that they are remembering Allah. want the ground, and they want everything around it is that they're remembering Allah. So on day of resurrection, those things can come and say, yeah, I heard this person praising you. Small little things like these, right? We do these things and it will have effects. All of these things. Remember Allah, wherever you can, whenever you can. Simple, even in your mind, and also making salah. There's some narration. Sometimes I also used to, I don't know if you guys notice this practice. Sometimes people would make salah in one place, and then when they're done, they move and they make salah in another place. And then I was just like, wonder why people do this. And some person explained to me the reason is because that part where you sujood over there, that's going to testify that you sujooded on that place. And then you go sujood another place, it's going to testify on the day of Qiyamah that you sujooded there, you made salat to Allah. So Allah alam, these are possible things. So what the point I'm trying to make is that our deeds and our deeds and our actions have consequences, good consequences and bad consequences. So we must understand that everything that we do have consequences, and we can't get away from it. Therefore, refrain from bad things and try to do good things all the time. And this verse is saying over here, we record what they send forth, the good things that they do, and we record what they left behind. وَكُلَّ شَيْءٍ أَحْصَيْنَاهُ فِي إِمَامٍ مُبِينٍ. Everything is meticulously listed, meticulously recorded. Ahsayna is it's like a complete capturing of everything that's been done, right? Fi imamim mubin. Ya imam can have many different meanings, but ya imam doesn't mean a leader. Ya imam actually, many scholars say it translates as a register. So everything is listed by us, by Allah, in a perfect record or register. Everything. So we're not going to get away from anything. We'll end here, inshallah. This is probably the last class that we're going to have now. So we will end here, inshallah. And we, innamal a'malu bil khawatim. Hadith says that, actions are judged by its ending. So I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept this. I'm a little bit more relaxed today, and I'm just like listening a little bit more and just like trying to think about all the classes that we've been having for this year. So it's likely that this is going to be the last class for this year. So please make dua that Allah accept this little bit of effort from us and all from you also sitting here, even if it just came, may Allah grant immense benefit and barakah in this. Pray for me, I pray for everybody here, inshallah, Allah put barakah and khair and everything for the rest of the year. And inshallah, we will start again afresh next year, continuing with this beautiful course that has been initiated by the MSAs. Allah accept, may Allah put barakah, may Allah grant us some deep understanding and insight. وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد سبحان الله وبحمده سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
اللهم صل الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح